Good evening. Before we begin this, can everybody hear me? You're okay? We have Dr. Manganello and our solicitor are above us on the screen here this evening. Dr. Manganello did want me to share with you that she is quarantined and not available to be at the meeting this week or next week, but she wanted to make sure she was able to be here in attendance and not miss anything. So just so you know, we're being transparent there and sharing that. And our solicitor is also will be available tonight on the screen as well. The Meet and Discuss Voting Board meeting of the Ambridge Area School District is held on Wednesday, October 13, 2021. This meeting is being held to take action that has come before the board. All meetings have been advertised to permit legislative action as necessary. Please rise for the flag salute. This meeting is being recorded for district purposes. It is or may be published in part or in its entirety on the district's website without the express permission of meeting participants. Can I have a roll call, please?
Mr. Angus? Here. Mr. Candelon? Mrs. Curtis?
Here.
Mrs. Kehoe?
Here.
Dr. Manganello?
Here.
Mr. Rex?
Here.
Ms. Pettigo?
Here.
Ms. Young?
Here.
Mrs. Fisher?
Here.
8 present.
Thank you. Can I have the sunshine law, please?
The Board of School Directors held executive session on Wednesday, October 13th to discuss personnel matters, matters subject to attorney-client privilege and other confidentiality laws, litigation, or threatened litigation matters.
Thank you. Moving forward, we do not have any amendments to the agenda this evening. Moving forward to recognition and presentation. School Board Service, Dr. Pascarella.
Yes, thank you. I'd like to present to Mr. Scott Angus the Pennsylvania School Board Association Certificate of Appreciation for his 12 years of service on the Ambridge Area School District Board of School Directors. Join me in a round of applause in congratulating Mr. Angus. Thank you.
I would just like to add on top of Dr. Pascarella's comments that Mr. Angus has brought a wealth of experience and knowledge to our board. And I, along with the rest of the board, are very thankful that we have had his wisdom and expertise for all these years. And I thank him for all his years of service and all the volunteering. He's attended numerous events for our kids and has spent a lot of money in our district as well, giving back to the community. So thank you, Scott, for everything. It's much appreciated. Moving forward to Coach McBride, are you here? Come on up. Congratulations to Coach Sherman McBride. Coach was selected by the Steelers as the Coach of the Week. The Bridgers defeated Hopewell 35-9 in Class AAA Northwestern 6 Conference battle. The victory ends a 28-game losing streak by the Bridgers and is the first of Coach McBride's head coaching career after being named head coach earlier this year. He served as an assistant coach for 21 years under former two-time Steelers Coach of the Year winner Mike Zimanjian. Congratulations, Sharon. I'll just say myself, we are very blessed to have Coach McBride here in the district. He's made so many favorable changes and brought a lot of kids back to the program. I'm sure the boys could chime in and add their thoughts too, but we are so thankful that we have Sherman. We look forward to the next couple years and seeing our kids and what Sherman and his coaches have done for the program. Thanks, Sherman.
On behalf of my coaches and my players that I have present, along with my wife Roxanne, I appreciate everything that you guys have done for us so far and will continue to do for us in the future. We're looking for bigger and better things as always. So again, much appreciated. Thank you very much.
Thanks for coming too, boys. Moving forward to public comment regarding agenda items only. At this time, district residents may come forward to comment on agenda items only. Each person must state their first and last name and address prior to speaking. Each resident will be allowed 3 minutes and can speak only once. This period for public comment prior to the standing committee reports will be limited to 1/2 hour. Although not required, board members desiring to address questions or concerns may do so after the residents' comments, questions, or at the conclusion of the committee reports. There will still be an opportunity for residents to comment on any business relevant to the Ambridge Area School District under old and new business at the end of the meeting. No? Yes.
Can everybody speak?
Anything related to the agenda, you can speak now. If it's not an agenda-related item, towards the end of the meeting where you see old and new business, you can get up and speak then. Okay. All right. Moving forward to legislative action for this meeting. Education and technology, Dr. Manganiello.
Thank you, Mrs. President. I move for the adoptions of items 1 and 2 in education and technology.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Metz. Can I have a roll call, please?
Mr. Angus?
Yes.
Mrs. Curtis?
Yes.
Mrs. Kehoe?
Yes.
Dr. Manganiello? Mr. Metz?
Yes.
Ms. Pettigo?
Yes.
Ms. Young?
Yes.
Mrs. Fisher?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Moving forward to building and grounds, Mr. Angus.
Yes, this evening I have up for approval item number 1 under building and grounds.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Metz. Can I have a roll call, please?
Mr. Angus?
Yes.
Mrs. Curtis?
Yes.
Mrs. Kehoe?
Yes.
Dr. Manganiello?
Yes.
Mr. Metz?
Yes.
Ms. Pettigo?
Yes.
Ms. Young?
Yes.
Mrs. Fisher?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Moving forward to personnel, Mr. Angus.
Yes, this evening I move the adoption of items 1 through 10 under personnel as presented.
Do I have a second? Mrs. Curtis? Mrs. Kehoe, thank you. Can I have a roll call, please?
Mr. Angus?
Yes.
Mrs. Curtis?
Yes.
Mrs. Kehoe?
Yes.
Dr. Manganiello?
Yes.
Mr. Metz?
Yes.
Ms. Pettigo?
Yes.
Ms. Young?
Yes.
Mrs. Fisher?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Superintendent's report, Dr. Pascarella? I do have a question if you could address. I've had a few calls this week regarding busing in the district and the buses being late and children getting home late. So I wanted to ask Dr. Pascarella if he could speak a little bit about that to the audience.
Sure, thank you, Mrs. Fisher. 2 items I'd like to discuss on that. First and foremost, it was reported, and I'm not sure how accurate or not it was, but I made sure that I did send an email out that any students who are coming in late due to bus issues would have the opportunity to make sure they got breakfast. So I wanted to make sure I heard about that concern, and that's something, if it did happen, it was not intentional, and we want to make sure we have that resolved. So make sure if your bus is late and you do need breakfast, that you make yourself available to the office or the cafeteria to get that breakfast. Overall shortages, I think we're seeing that across, not just our district, but across the state, probably the nation, where we're having a shortage in a variety of positions, as we know, and that is not an exception in transportation, regards transit. I have contacted and talked with Mr. Rhodes on many occasions, and he has indicated that many times, I know himself and many of his administrators are also driving buses and vans to try to do the very best they can for the district. Sometimes they have a plan together, I know, as he has stated the night before, but then unfortunately right now with the COVID-19 virus, sometimes people become ill and they're not able to fill that. So they're constantly working on trying to attain new drivers, and anyone who knows of anyone who would like to be a bus driver, please, send them to Rhodes. That would be greatly appreciated. But at this given point, I think that's primarily the issue, why you're seeing some of the buses having to make double runs or pick more students up. There's just a shortage, both due to positions and because of illness. So we apologize for any inconvenience, and that's surely not our goal. We will continue to work with Rhodes, and I know he's going to continue, Mr. Rhodes himself, to try to recruit and get more bus drivers to be able to get our students here, on time, to the best of his ability. Thank you.
Anything?
No.
That was it? Okay. Moving forward to the solicitor's report, Ms. Turnbull.
I have no report. I look forward to being with you in person next week.
Thank you. Old and new business. It is now time for old and new business. Any district resident who desires to comment on any business relevant to the Ambridge Area School District should now come forward. Each person must state their first and last name and address prior to speaking. Each person will be allowed 3 minutes and can speak only once. Sir, this is the portion if you'd like.
My name is William Taylor III. I live at 1010 11th Street, Ambridge, Pennsylvania. I've been a resident here for over 20 years. I put 3 kids through this high school, and I'm a little in distress because a couple of weeks ago I was ignored when I tried to defuse the situation, but no one wanted to talk to me. I wanted to know why Ms. DeMarco was able to get away with putting the word nigger, referring to my grandson, on the big board so that the whole class could see. I also wanted to know why there was a meeting held prior to my daughter, who was here in attendance, getting notification that this happened. Why did the kids' cell phones almost become confiscated because of this incident? I'm wondering why, since I've been here this long, none of my kids have ever given me problems, that I have to deal with this and no one's doing anything about it.
Can I ask you, sir, who you did reach out? You said nobody got back to you?
I came to the school.
You came to the school?
Yes, and I was ignored. Then a police officer was sent to my daughter's house in order to defuse the situation, from what I understand.
When you came to the school, what did they tell you?
I stood at the door the entire time. I watched the lady walk back, talk to 2 ladies, come back, one of them being the lady police officer, coming back and telling me they didn't have time.
And nobody called you back or got back to you?
They sent a police officer to my daughter's house. Yes, and I stood there at the door respectfully. I didn't bother nobody. I watched her walk back, talk to 2 ladies, one of them being a female police officer.
And they told you they didn't have
And then she walked off somewhere.
They being the principal, or we saying?
They being whoever it is in the front office. Whoever, and she said that she walked off somewhere that she couldn't get to. I said, okay, fine. And I tried to squash it right then and there. And no one called, no nothing. They thought everything was just gonna go away, and it's not.
You had no opportunity to speak to the principal?
Nobody.
And did anyone take any of your information whatsoever, like your name, your phone
No,
number?
I had to go on Facebook to find out a lot of this information. And a lot of the kids in the class have told me as such that these words were sprawled out all over the board. And nobody did anything about it. I wanted to know how she's so comfortable being able to say that in a school such as this, which I know the diversity in this school.
So I guess my only comment at this given point would be, you know, I wasn't aware of your visit. Obviously, if you would like, along with your daughter, to give us your contact information, I'm assuming your daughter is the parent, is that correct?
Yes.
So, if you'd like to stop after the meeting or let us know, we would definitely make sure that the principal, if she has not spoken to your daughter, the parent, or the student concerned, I will make sure that she reaches out to you. I wasn't aware of the situation. I wasn't aware that no one got
So you
back.
weren't at the meeting after the class?
Say that again.
You weren't at the meeting after the class?
I wasn't aware that no one got back. I'm aware of the situation, but I wasn't aware that you stopped up and no one got back. I didn't know.
You weren't at the meeting after the class?
I say it again, sir, I'm
There was a
sorry.
meeting after the
Oh,
class.
there was a meeting after class?
Yes, and where the administrators and everybody got together for damage control, and I'm asking you, were you at that meeting?
Well, sir, I'm
Yes or no? I mean, are you?
I'm gonna, do you want my answer or no?
Sure.
Okay. I will tell you that I don't know what specific meeting you're speaking of, but I'm definitely aware.
It happened right after the incident, right after the class was dismissed and they tried to confiscate the funds. They had a meeting in the administration before they even called her. And I'm asking you if you were physically at that meeting.
I don't believe so, but I believe so. I don't know. But anyway, I was aware of it.
You don't know where you were? If you
No,
were
I
at that
don't. I
meeting?
don't remember exactly if I was in the meeting you're
Okay,
speaking.
cool.
But I do know that
I'm sorry, so what's your name?
My name is Joe Pasquarella, P-A-S-Q-U-E-R-I-L-L-A. I'm the superintendent. I am aware of the situation, and it was addressed. If you were not contacted, or the parent or guardian of the student was not contacted back, that should be dealt with for sure.
Well, then I have another question. Were there any other members at this meeting, at that meeting, after class? Any of you physically were at that meeting for damage control after the class? I'm asking for an honest answer.
Are you talking to the board, sir?
Yes, I'm asking any of you.
No.
I wasn't even aware there was.
Then,
Sir, do you have paper there in front of you? I was just gonna ask if you wouldn't mind giving us the information, if you don't mind handing it to me, so we can.
well, these are questions. It says Amherst School Board. How did she feel comfortable saying it? How did the principal, how was the reception so okay with it? How come the kids said that you tried to confiscate their phones? What was the meeting about after class, and what is being done about it? That's what's written on my paper.
Yeah. I mean, the solicitor is on the screen. To the best of my knowledge, what I am saying is that any parents who have any specific questions about any issue or any of the issues,
I
surely
understand.
do.
Thank
And
you.
any issue.
I'm Marissa Hunt. I stay at 338 Maplewood Avenue, apartment 2, Lambridge. I'm an alumni here, and I actually, I love the school. I never had no problems. I was a good student. No detention, no suspension, none of that. But this is like the first problem, first problem I've ever encountered really with my son is bad, and the multiple stories I'm receiving about the same teacher as well. And I actually did try to get a hold of the superintendent, whoever that may be. I called and left a message voicing my concern and how upset I was about it, and I didn't receive no phone call. And I received a phone call from Janice Susik about a day and a half after everything happened, and she stated she tried to call me, which on my call logs, I didn't get no calls from her that whole day. I left a message at 7 o'clock in the morning because I couldn't even really sleep on it, because this is my child. No kid should have to come to school worrying about a teacher bullying them. They already worry about students bullying them. So why should they have to come to school and worry about a teacher badgering them or making them feel lesser than they are? That's not right. And many stories I have of this one teacher is from 15 years ago, people I went to school with. But I've never seen this because I was a good student. But I guess from what I'm seeing, the students that may misbehave or may have troubles, maybe, feels just, students that might act out are the ones that seem to get, ridiculed or judged. And, just some of the stories I've heard is sad itself. And, I want answers for my son, but I also want answers for all the students that have to deal with that. I don't think any student, any child should have to deal with being bullied by any adult, even, their own parents. No adult should be bullying a child when these kids already have to come to school and worry about being bullied from other students. Teachers are supposed to be their safe haven. So when they come to, when someone is messing with them, how are they going to do that if they're afraid of that teacher maybe agreeing with their friends or what the student may say? And I just, needs to start somewhere. And I want to be that voice for all those students that have to worry, that come to school in fear of a teacher calling them stupid or slow, or she's a slut because she's showing a little bit of skin, which you see, it's just, that's all I really can think of right now. I'm sorry. Thank you.
My name is Brianna Stevens. I'm located at 828 12th Street, Cambridge. I have concerns about the COVID cases. I have two kids who have quarantined separately, one week and the one the next week. Neither one of them tested positive, they were sent home. My concern is, when I told the school that my 5-year-old will not sleep without his sister, and I did not understand why she did not have to quarantine at the same time as him. They said that my daughter did not need to quarantine. And I just come for clarifications on why. If someone in your household is showing COVID symptoms and they're in the same location, and I'm letting you know that they sleep in the same room together, why my first grader did not have to quarantine with my kindergarten, but then the next week my first grader was sent home, and my kindergarten didn't have to quarantine.
If I understood the question right, we're following for the most part our recommendations that we get, from the health department. So if I heard you correctly, I think what you're saying is if one of your children was exhibiting symptoms, they would be quarantined. If the other student was not exhibiting symptoms, they wouldn't have to be quarantined just because one is showing symptoms. That being said, I think you said the test was negative. Had the test been positive, or someone in your household was positive, then a sibling would have had to be quarantined. And I can understand some of your confusion on that, but those are the directives that we sort of get from the health department that we reach out to and get. If I understand your question, did I get that right?
Yes.
But do we have a game plan on getting these COVID cases down? Like all day long, it's phone calls. I work night shift and I can't sleep during the day when my kids are in school because I'm getting constant phone calls. This school has a positive case. It's constantly, all day long, we're constantly getting phone calls that there's COVID cases. If there's something that us parents can do, can someone let us know what y'all need from our end to help prevent it, or doing as much as we can with the information? But for instance, at the beginning of the year, I sent both of my kids to school with hand sanitizer wipes, big bottles of hand sanitizers, and all of that stuff was returned back home. And I sent it to school for those teachers to have that in class for those students. And the big bottles of hand sanitizers were sitting at home on my desk, and they were sent to school the whole entire week with my kids. And I'm not understanding why.
I'd like you to send me an email. I'm not understanding that as well. You sent them in and the homeroom
Yes,
teacher, whoever.
even last year, when it all started happening, I went to Walmart and I buy the wipes, the Clorox wipes to wipe down the desk. I don't care how much money I have to spend, but as long as my kids have that stuff provided in class, I don't want it returned back home. I want it in that classroom where my kids are located so that they can use that hand sanitizer. All the kids. Literally, the big bottles that you buy at Walmart, I have 2 of those sitting at home, and I'm not understanding why they were returned back home.
I agree with you. I'm confused by that as well.
We have outrageous numbers of cases.
I'm writing let me hand this to you, okay? I'm writing my email down. And I'll write my phone number. If you want to call me tomorrow.
I'm here coming personally myself, I sit here, I have 2 in the high school, and I understand we are from the CDC guidelines and that we are getting constant calls. I have a 9th grader senior. I have my 9th grader quarantine. I kept my senior at home because I'm not going to have one sitting at home and out to my senior school because it is per CDC guidelines we are following, but I'm not going to send her to school and then she got she get symptoms. I'm not doing that. I just feel the program that we had last year worked a little bit better than what we're doing this year. Last year, if one student tested positive in the classroom, the whole class has a quarantine. For instance, my niece today was sent home, but it was just her and 3 other kids. The whole class gets sent home. And I understand we're following that protocol of what they want, but also, if the numbers was a little bit better last year than the outrageous numbers that we're having this year. Some people don't even show symptoms from COVID. You can be vaccinated and still catch COVID. And I get that it's out of you guys' hand and stuff, but those are just my concerns. Let us know what we can do to help you, so you guys can help us too. We feel like we're left out kind of, because we're getting the calls, but we're not getting the action. Like, what can we do to help you prevent this from in our school district?
Thank you, hon. We appreciate that. I wanted to hand this to you. If you want to call me tomorrow. Bye.
Thank you.
Sure.
Good evening. Mary Jane Jones Gilliam, 1611 Lynn Avenue, Danvers, PA. I am here to do a follow-up on the request that was made several months ago about the hiring process of African American teachers here at the Amherst School District. I wanted to know, first of all, if you have had applicants and if there is any consideration to hiring any of those applicants. I know for a fact that I have referred 3 different individuals here to the school district that are more than qualified. And the response that I'm getting from them in terms of the interview is not very positive, and it's an eyesore on the district, if in fact that's the way the interviews were processed. So I'm here to find out if in fact you had interviews and the success rate of those interviews.
Well, we've had interviews for a variety of positions. And we considered, all candidates, and then we recommend to the board who we believe will be, the best candidate for the position. As far as, I'm not sure about who you referred or not referred, and that would probably be a personnel matter. I will say that, obviously, I think, if I remember right, at the meeting, you were talking about how we could look to get more diverse candidates to come in. Is that right? Is that what you're saying? Sorry.
Yes, and that's
Yeah.
one of the reasons why I recommended them, because of that competition.
Yeah, so, I do think that that is something that obviously, as always, we are looking to do. That being said, I'm not going to get into the exact specifics of everything, but it's a personnel matter, but I will say that's definitely something that, I know as a team and as a district, we're looking to try to do to diversify. Our teachers and our staff population based upon who applies. We also want to make sure that we do hire the best candidates for the job as well. I know recently we've recently hired as our middle school principal. We hired an African American gentleman for that position who will be starting in November. I don't know if you referred them or not. I don't really know. I didn't get any referrals personally to me from you that I'm aware of. If I did, I missed it.
Well, you did get one, Dr. Woods was one of them.
Say it again.
Dr. Caius Woods was one of them.
Oh, yes,
He went-
Dr. Woods, right. I know we talked about it. And I speak with him frequently. He is now at Aliquippa as the
Yeah.
superintendent.
Yes, I understand.
Yeah, so, that was a great position for him, and very happy for him, know him personally, and speak with him often.
So then what would be the process for recommendations or referrals to the personnel department or someone individual that you direct the applications to?
Sure, most of the applications that you'll see when they're listed in the paper, they ask you to submit that paperwork to Mr. Mays, who is the secretary to Mr. King, who kind of handles most of the hiring process. So that's who you would be referring to.
Thank you.
Wait, I have a question. I'm sorry. I know we can't know the names or whatever as far as who they are. But do you know the dates of when these interviews took place?
I don't have them with me right now, but I can get them to you.
Thank you. I'd like to know when the dates were.
My name is Isaac Elias. I'm at 110 Hilltop Court in Beatty. So just to follow up on what she said, do you all collect demographic data on your applicants to different positions?
Do we collect demographic data?
Yes. Could you tell us what proportion racially apply to different jobs that are open at the district?
That would be a question as far as producing that. We would have to ask the solicitor if we were allowed to share. I don't see one not.
Okay, I just wonder if it would be available to the public, what proportion of people were applied from different racial backgrounds and genders, and then compare that to the rate of hire and analyze that to see, if the proportion applying matches the proportion hired. It's an idea that hopefully can be done. So that's just a follow-up. But what I initially meant to speak about, I have 3 kids here at 3 different schools. I'm here to speak about a policy that I believe is not being enforced adequately in the student handbooks for both the middle school and the high school. The policy is set forth in the section entitled Bullying, Cyberbullying, Discrimination, Intimidation, and Harassment. And it says in the student handbook, there will be no physical, verbal intimidation, or racial, ethnic discrimination, harassment against any student or teacher. Students who violate this policy will be disciplined by the administration and may face legal charges. That's what it says in the student handbook. Now, since the last time this board met, I've heard from my children about multiple instances, both at the middle school and the high school, where a student has been using racial slurs in different formats, via text message, via Snapchat. And it's documented and it's spread, and all the kids know it, and it's been communicated to administration. So my wife emailed the high school principal and superintendent about one of these incidents, hasn't heard back. So what I want to know is it the policy of administrators in this district to discipline students who engage in using racial slurs via text message, Snapchat, on different mobile devices? Is it the district policy to discipline based on that behavior?
So per the policy, we do discipline students, obviously, who violate, the policy that you're referring to. We can't discuss that discipline that we provide to the other students, just as we would not share any discipline that happens to your child with anyone else. And the only thing I will say, because you mentioned it, sometimes we do have to work with our solicitor when things occur outside of school, off school property and outside school time. We do make ourselves aware of that. There are some times where a connection can be made, and there are other times where we have to refer that to the police department. If I answered your question. Right.
I appreciate the answer. Can we get more guidance, or kind of some more, I guess, if I need to explain to my kids, okay, why are some behaviors addressed by administration and why are some others not? How can I make sense of that to my children?
I'm trying to, first of all, anything that happens inside these school walls or utilizing school devices would be applied to the policy, and folks would be disciplined if found by administration in accordance with the handbook and the policy. The only thing I could think of, I'm trying to figure out where exactly you're going without knowing the incident and making sure that, I respect the privacy of all students who were disciplined, would be something, and I'm not aware of it, I don't have a specific example in my mind, to be frank, but if something happens outside of school, there are oftentimes where school doesn't have the authority to discipline for something that happens outside of school. Sometimes you can, there are some connections that you can make, and those ones become more difficult. But if there's something that occurs inside the school, or on a school event, or a school trip, or any of those things, they need to be brought forth to the administration, and they should be addressed. And if they're not being addressed by the building principal, which I assume that they will be, then that would be the time where you would call the superintendent and let me know.
Okay.
Did you leave a message for the principal, sir? I know you said your wife reached out. You sent an email, did you say?
She sent an email.
And when was that, do you know?
I think it was
Just a roundabout.
like middle of last week.
Last week?
Yeah.
This incident occurred in school.
So it made its way around. All the kids knew about it. All the kids knew that there were racial slurs being used, and it was like, I think it was a video that was documented of another student yelling racial slurs at another one. And I'm pretty sure it happened that way.
You can share that with the building principal if you have the video. If you've done that, if you have it.
We need her to contact him, though. He said that his wife sent an email and he didn't hear anything back.
I agree with that. The only statement I'll make to that, Ms. Fisher, is this, that we cannot discuss, we could surely get back there, but we cannot go in, I'm going to say, this is my professional opinion, we cannot discuss other students' discipline.
No,
With
I
anybody
get
else.
that.
So,
I
you can
just
surely
was
say
looking-
that if there's any comments or questions or concerns to your child, or ones that you even see that's happening outside of another child, you should report those to, specifically to the building administration and get an answer. I'm not sure of the context of the email or why, at least it could have been given, thank you for the information. That could have been a response. That definitely could have been the minimum of a response, so I'm not arguing that point, I'm just saying, I'm not sure. If it's asking, as I heard the gentleman ask, which is a fair question, what's being done, how is it being addressed? What we can say is, it will be addressed if found in school. I don't think we would have the ability, unfortunately, although we would like to explain the specific discipline that was handed out to another student.
And I understand that. Just so I think it's fair if she or your wife or whoever did reach out, it's some sort of response back to acknowledge her. Yes, and that's my point.
And that's,
Yes.
I agree with that.
Yes.
He needed a response. He didn't get one.
I agree.
And he deserved it.
Yes,
You just
yes.
think, I got it.
I agree. Yes.
This is becoming every week occurrence that either people are calling the school, leaving voicemails, and nobody's returning phone calls, or we're getting emails and we're still not getting back to these people. Where is the communication to these people? Where are we lacking in communication? I mean, they shouldn't have to call the school 12 times for somebody to get back to them.
So maybe if you could give a directive to the principal, Dr. Pascarella, that we need to get responses back to the people that are inquiring, that we're getting feedback at the meeting that it's been a week and that they have not heard anything. That's unacceptable. Yes. Sir, if you,
I heard the name, I thought, I don't hear eyes, and that might have been, it's hard to hear.
you know what, here, just take it, if you don't mind, sir, use my pen. Could you please? Perfect, and thank you.
Good evening. Kristen Paxton, 144 Hickory Drive, Economy. I just have 3 quick questions for tonight. First, I was going to request a status update on the plan to either reinstate the safety resource officer or hire an equally qualified individual for that post.
Go ahead, if you want to do the others.
Run through?
Sure.
Second, they're not related, so
Okay.
we can answer them in whatever order you like. The second is, I'd like to know if our district is going to be participating in the Ginkgo Bioworks program called Concentric. This is a program to provide weekly COVID classroom testing in K through 12 schools. And then lastly is a question regarding mandates. I wondered if there are any plans to implement a vaccine mandate for students and staff.
In response to that, first of all, on the SRO, I did meet with the police chief. At this given point, and I don't want to paraphrase for him, but I'm going to try to quote him exactly, but I'm going to try to paraphrase what he said. At this given point, he feels that we're going to need to be able to meet with the Economy Borough Council, which I know the board president has reached out to them to see if we can get a meeting. At this given point, he doesn't feel that he has the staffing to put somebody else in the position, even though the other person has returned. So from my perspective, I would think that there'd be somebody else that would be able to come in. He shared that he was concerned about his staffing level and that we would need to be meeting with Economy Borough to see next steps. It is our hope that we will be able to have that meeting. I know that Ms. Fisher reached out to them, and that we could work on this to try to resolve it as soon as possible. So that's where we're at this evening.
Okay.
I'll jump in there
Yeah,
before.
please.
I just wanted to let you know that I personally attended their last council meeting, asking for assistance and letting them know. I looked briefly at their Facebook page, and it says right at the top, "We love our children." And I publicly said at the meeting, I love our children too, and I want our kids to be safe, and I'm hoping that we can come to a resolution to get somebody in that building, so.
Is there any further attempt to bring the previous officer back?
That would be personal.
Yeah, I would say at this given point, you know, that would have to be a question, you know, being asked to on the police. It's a personnel matter, and to be frank, the individual worked in our schools, but is not our employee. But if I was asked a question, as I said, about students or staff in my position, I have to say, you know, that that's a personnel matter. Okay. Next thing you asked was about the testing for rapid COVID testing.
Yeah.
At this given point, I haven't recommended that we did this for the fall, that we go into that program just yet until I see the success of that for the following reason. The limited information that I would receive as the superintendent and superintendent's meeting and others in the county was that one, it would be voluntary, and if it was voluntary, we would have to get sign-offs, and then we would do basically a large pool testing. They would do it, not us, where we would put all these folks that took it maybe from one class into one test. If that came up positive, we wouldn't know exactly who it was. We would just know it was in the test. And then they would have to do follow-up testing. One of my biggest questions would be to them, would everybody be quarantined until then? And their answer was no. So I was kind of concerned with that. So in other words, we're going to find out that there might be a positive test in there. We don't know who it is. And until we get further testing, when they're able to come back, which they couldn't guarantee exactly when they would be back, we would know somebody in there has it, but we wouldn't know who. And we would not quarantine anyone. Or if we flipped it and decided on our own to quarantine everybody, then we would quarantine everyone when it was only one person. So for those reasons right now, I'd like to see, or I would recommend that to the board, that being utilized in an effective way. And talk to some colleagues throughout the state where they say this is really working a lot. Because right now, I can see that increase in the number of quarantines and or allow people who are positive to come back in. And the timeliness of when, you know, we would be able to get that done is a concern of mine, from my understanding.
Well, and I personally appreciate that type of thoughtful approach, you know, when a lot of these things are still unproven. One of my other concerns lies with, it begins as optional, and then I worry that it would become compulsory. So that's another reason why I wanted to ask about it. And then the third is related just to the mandating the vaccine.
And I think you asked, am I aware of any mandates? I mean, personally, I've not been made aware of any mandates that I'm aware of at this point.
Yeah, no, my question was more, are there plans to implement that?
When you ask plans, are you talking about myself as a superintendent?
The district at large. Yes.
Well, at this given point, I don't intend on recommending that to the board. I don't want to speak on this.
I appreciate it.
Okay. I have oh, I'm sorry.
Adriana Cephas, Ambridge, PA. I just want to follow up on her question regarding the resource officer. I do not want him, I don't know him, never met him in my life, but I can tell you he does not follow the rules, and I'm going to tell you why. He goes into the classroom and he tells the students, tell your parents that they are trying to fire me because I don't want to wear a mask and follow the rules. We don't need a police officer like that in our school. We don't need a police officer who's targeting our black kids, who are not following the rules, and want our kids in an uncomfortable situation. And like I said, I have not met this man, but this is what I have heard from students in the middle school and from teachers. So he is saying this to our babies. They shouldn't be in that position. He does not ever need to come back unless he apologizes and he wears his mask to protect the students and himself. And I know there's a shortage in the school, but I would like to ask, please, for 6th grade, can you get us a full-time math teacher? I mean, that's PSSA and all that, and the kids keep getting a sub here and there, or maybe a teacher doesn't even show up. There wasn't even a teacher for open house there, and I, like I said, I know there's a shortage, but can we work hard
on getting these babies a permanent math teacher for 6th grade so they can pass their PSSAs. Thank you.
Thank you. The only comment I wanted to, you voted on. Yeah, you voted on one tonight, so I appreciate that. We did have a sub to start the year. Unfortunately, the sub was not able to continue. Apologize for any inconvenience, but tonight, they did hire somebody for that position.
All right. I have a motion to adjourn the voting meeting and reconvene the meeting to discuss. Thank you, Mrs. Chris. What's that? Thank you. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right. Moving forward. The Meet and Discuss Board meeting of the Ambridge Area School District is held on Wednesday, October 13, 2021. This meeting is being held to review the agenda for the regular monthly board meeting that will be held on Wednesday, October 20th, 2021 at 7 p.m. in the high school auditorium. This meeting is being recorded for district purposes. It is or may be published in part or in its entirety on the district's website without the express permission of meeting participants. Can I have a roll call, please?
Mr. Angus?
Here.
Mr. Campbell? Mrs. Curtis?
Here.
Mrs. Kehoe?
Here.
Dr. Manganella?
Here.
Mr. Max?
Here.
Ms. Pettigrew?
Here.
Ms. Young? Mrs. Fisher?
Here.
8 present.
Thank you. Any correspondence this evening?
No correspondence.
Thank you. No student-teacher recognition or presentations. Public comment regarding agenda items only. At this time, district residents may come forward to comment on agenda items only. Each person must state their first and last name and address prior to speaking. Each resident will be allowed 3 minutes and can speak only once. This period for public comment prior to the standing committee reports will be limited to 1/2 hour. Although not required, board members desiring to address questions or concerns may do so after the residents' comments, questions, or at the conclusion of the committee reports. Okay, moving forward to the committee reports, Education and Technology, Dr. Manganello.
Thank you, Mrs. President. Tonight I have 2 items for discussion. Our comprehensive plan and the economy before and after school childcare. Are there any questions on these items?
Okay, thank you. Moving forward to Finance and Budget, Ms. Pettigrew.
Thank you, Mrs. President. I have 6 items for discussion this evening. The first 2 are related to the monthly regular bills and salaries for the school district and the cafeteria. Any discussion? Item number 3 is for the repository. It's recommended that the board approve the sale of property from the Beaver County Repository of Unsold Property. And there's 3 under A, B, and C. Any discussion or questions? Number 4 is a tax exoneration. It's recommended to approve the request for real estate tax exoneration for 2021 and prior years for a parcel on 6th Street in Ambridge purchased by K.A. Merchant Property LLC. Any discussion? Okay, grant acceptance. It's recommended to accept the emergency activity fund in the approximate amount of $140,000 from the Universal Service Administrative Company. The funds will be used for students who cannot afford internet services and also to purchase approximately 350 new iPads to replace the used ones. Mrs. Lori Hine was instrumental in securing this grant.
Ms. Pettigrew, I would just publicly like to thank on behalf of the board, Mrs. Hine for securing that grant for us.
Absolutely. Any other discussion? Okay, the last item is disabled veterans tax exemption. The board is recommended to approve the disabled veterans tax exemption for property in South Heights. And any discussion on item number 6? Okay, that's all I have, Mr. President.
Thank you. Moving forward, Building and Grounds, Mr. Angus. Okay, Athletics, Mr. Campbell was not able to be here this evening. Nothing to report. Thank you, Mr. Mitchell. The public relations, your Item under public relations.
Library contributions. It is recommended to approve the distribution of budgeted allotments for 2021-2022 school year as follows. Aiden Library, $4,250, and Blackfoot Memorial Library, $5,250.
Any questions? Okay. Steering and rules, Mrs. Kehoe.
Item number 1 is policy 006, local board procedures. It is a third reading. It is to assist with compliance with Sunshine Act Amendments Act 65 of 2021, which requires public notice of board business by posting agendas of open board meetings with the intent to facilitate transparency. Is there any questions? Item number 2 is policy 903, public participation in board meetings. Also a third reading. It is to assist with the compliance with the Sunshine Act Amendments Act 65 of 2021, which requires public notice of board business by posting agendas of open board meetings with the intent to facilitate transparency. Is there any questions on that one? Item number 3, policy 146.1, trauma-informed approach, first reading, to ensure coordination among teams for implementation of trauma-informed approach to include the district's threat assessment team. Are there any questions? Item number 4, policy 218.2, terroristic threats, also first reading, is to ensure coordination of handling terroristic threats with the threat assessment team, including assessment of the student, communication, and deposition of the threat. Is there any questions? Item number 5, policy 247, hazing, first reading, to include a statement directing staff to report the student to the threat assessment team in cases where the behavior of the student indicates a threat to the safety of the student, other students, school employees, school facilities, the community, or others. Is there any questions? Item number 6, policy 249, bullying/cyberbullying, first reading, to include a statement directing staff to report the student to the threat assessment team in cases where the behavior of the student indicates a threat to the safety of the student, other students, school employees, school facilities, the community, or others. Is there any questions? Item number 7, policy 252, dating violence, first reading, to include a statement directing staff to report the student to the threat assessment team in cases where the behavior of the student indicates a threat to the safety of the student, other students, school employees, school facilities, the community, or others. Are there any questions? Madam President, that concludes my report.
Thank you. Moving forward to legislative, Ms. Young.
I have one item up for discussion. It is recommended the board secretary be directed to cast a vote for the Amherst Area School Board for election of the following PSB-based slate of candidates for 2021. Any discussion?
Were there 2 people running for president for that?
Pardon me?
Were there 2 people?
Mrs. Miller said it, and obviously, those candidates would be on the agenda for next week.
Okay, all right.
You have to return to her.
Okay.
Salary schedule and labor relations, Mrs. Curtis. Thank you. Can I have the sunshine law, please?
The Board of School Directors held an executive session on Wednesday, October 13th to discuss personnel matters, matters subject to attorney-client privilege and other confidentiality laws, and litigation or threatened litigation matters.
Thank you. I have a motion on the floor to adjourn. Thank you. Mrs. Kehoe? Do I have a second? Thank you, Ms. Young. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Thank you so much for attending. Have a good night.